Hey, Davie.
Good to see you again.
We are back. And we had to do this courtesy, right? So,
no, good to see you again, my friend. Good to see you.
Courtesy.
Yeah, that's me, I think.
Oh, that is right. Okay.
Look at those two handsome dudes.
There we are. So
yeah.
We're still on episode 4. The only difference is this time we are going to do the last segment of our 2 segments. We recorded the first segment, which is already published, and this is the second segment. And we are talking about NOBULLSHIDO, getting back to essence.
Sure.
And you're on Dr. M's podcast. Take it over, mate, and let's do it well and fast.
Thank you. Let me just share my screen. Close disabled participant. Oh, you've disabled participant screen sharing, Dr. M.
Have I?
Yeah, you've disabled it from last time. You obviously didn't like my last piece, so I'm going to have to wing it. I'm going to have to just talk while you do that.
No bullshidos.
No bullshit. The BUSHIdo is strong in this one, said Master Yoda.
Go ahead. Sorry for that. It was unintentional.
It's okay. No, but it's good to have a worked example of BUSHIdo to work back to. So that's good. But, there we go. Can you see my screen now?
Yep, segment 2, and there's the essence going into the bottle.
Yeah, let me just move this across. 2 seconds, just so I can see. I like to see your smiling face at me, Dr. M. It's good body language feedback when I'm talking, so just wanted to get the screen set up. So thank you very much again.
You know, there is some bullshidos that goes on that we are asked on Google and most of the apps. They ask you to certify whether you're a robot or not.
Yeah.
And you know who says that? A robot.
Yeah, it's a bot that's asking me. It's bizarre, but yeah, I like this way of proving that I am who I am. So thanks for that. Thank you for having me back on the show, Dr. M.
Here we go, segment 2.
Yeah, it's we'll start with a recap of last time. Sure. Segment 1 was around introduction and BUSHIdo, and well, the origins of the way of the warrior, the thinking code of the Japanese samurai, whatever. And then BULLshido, we talked about that and some of the corporate instances of BULLshido, divisive belt systems, divisive reward systems, management by fear and whatever. So we talked about we talked about fads, some of the fads, basic roller, skateboards, martial arts. We talked about people's propensity to and attraction to things that are fads, the next best thing. Even if it's only slightly better or slightly rebranded, people will still buy that. And how people, unscrupulous people, will prey upon that and sell their wares, their goods, their services to an unsuspecting audience. So that was kind of, excuse me, segment 1 up to BULLshido. And I just want to talk about the essence of it. An example of working through that to getting back to basics.
I love this.
Keeping it simple.
I love this. You have made it so visual. You have the red for your introduction, BUSHIdo, and then you go to the amber, and the crux of it is now coming through. The green is the essence, right?
Gambari Masho, as they say in Japanese. Gambari Masho, Gambate. Let's go, let's do it, man. Goya principle.
Yep.
If you remember Goya principle, never mind Genchi Genbutsu, never mind your felt leadership. Goya is the most simplistic of all of those. Get off your ass, you know. So back to basics, keep it simple, rule of 3s. So recap from segment 1, if you remember. I'll quickly get these put back up. Oh, so people like and attracted to the next best thing. Leaders have the belief that unless you're doing something new or innovative, in inverted commas, that you're failing. That we pay lip service to respect for people and compassionate leadership. So my door is open, but don't come in. You know, I don't know if you've got a problem. Where they don't walk, we talk. And then lastly, there's people who seek to prosper in that. When there's blood in the water, there's always a shark. And these can be consultants, they can be academics, they can be authors, lean wannabes, or snake oil salesmen. It doesn't matter who it is. They're after your well-earned dollars, rupees, pounds, yen, whatever. So let's talk about the essence. And what do I mean by the essence? The essence for me is stripping things right back to a time when people did things for the right reasons. It was some of the things that we talk about were born out of requirement. The same, innovation is the mother of necessity, or necessity is the mother of innovation. I can't remember which way around it is, but we created ways of doing things that actually fit the reason. The Japanese, for example, in Toyota, and the circumstances under which they were in, post Second World War, no natural resources of their own, an economy that was at its lowest, and through necessity, they had to think of innovative ways of making the most of what they had with what they had every single day of the week. They had to make sure that they were super efficient. They didn't throw anything away. There was absolutely zero waste. That's the essence for me. The essence is getting back to that point, understanding what the problem is. It's not about rebranding, relabeling, adding fads, or trying to make a quick dollar or a buck out of a situation, or taking a situation and applying a Japanese term to it in the hope that that makes it mystical and sexy. So that stripping away that BULLshido back to what did we do before? What makes common sense? And how do we get back to that without killing ourselves? And keep it simple. Now, back to basics and keep it simple are two of the basic tenets of the essence, but really, really hard to do because, again, the attraction to BULLshido is strong in people. They can't automatically accept that a step backwards might be a good step. So maybe for me, and I'll take this example and work this through, there are other examples of how you can work the essence through to a conclusion, but let's just pick this one because it's a nice story to tell around this. Taiichi Ohno, the man in question, the man who in segment 1 told us that, look, there might be more than 7 wastes. I don't know. When I wrote the book, I said that he who has no bad habits has 7. People picked up on that, wrote books about it. The rest became folklore. Some other people got it. It became. Ohno said, look, I don't know where it came from, but I know this. There's at least 7. There could be hundreds more. Right? He also said it doesn't really matter whether it's 7, 27, 57, or 107. Just get on and do kaizen. Accept that there's waste in the system. Accept that it stops you doing what you want to do, but go on and do some kaizen and get rid of that waste. Whatever type you deem it to be, go and do kaizen. That, if nothing else strikes a chord, just accept that one point. So from his wisdom in that, he also gives another point. And for me, this long time ago, this cut to the core for me, what business was around. There's all the BUSHIdo around various other parts of what we do. We're in it for profit, we're in it for the shareholders, the stakeholders, or whoever. But Ohno said this, all we're doing is looking at the timeline from the moment the customer gives us an order to the point when we collect the cash. That's it. That's what he's looking at. When do I get an order? When do I get the money for it? That's my timeline. The clock is running. And we are reducing the timeline by reducing the non-value adding waste. The non-value adding waste, if you remember, could be 7, 27, 57. In his original speech and in the workshop management book, there could be more. I just picked 7. So there are many reasons for waste, but the significant factor here is they are impacting upon our time to get the money back for the money that we put out. That's that timeline that we're seeking to compress. Now in this slide, I've put together a fairly simplistic and rudimentary swim lane chart for how that process looks, that timeline. I'll make it bigger so people can see it. But orders received, it works its way through information-wise. There's a manufacturing process, obviously, but we put it to stock or we sell it. And then there's a financial process at the bottom where we create an invoice, we check the stock, we sell it, packing list goes in the goods, invoice goes with the goods, we send it off and invoice is paid. The lean kaizen BUSHIdo artists would have us look at the yellow areas. From the moment, from raw material store to raw material store, work it back from the customer. When we value stream map, we work it back from the customer, from the dispatch area, right the way back to raw materials coming in. And that's where we kind of concentrate our lean. I know we pay rudimentary service to that by putting the planning flows on the top, but how do we call upon the value stream map to move material there. But what doesn't manifest itself in this? What's the financial system that's at play? What's the credit control? Where's the work that goes in to saying whether I can or cannot deal with Dr. M as a supplier to me, or indeed as a customer? And where's the piece at the other end of the cycle that says, once I've dispatched the goods, how do I kaizen the process by which I get paid? Am I paid to my normal terms and conditions of contract? Am I financing somebody else's credit here? So if I've got a net 30-day payment term and you're taking 120 days, I'm giving you free cash. Where does that show up in my value stream map or my lean tools and techniques? Yeah. So getting back to Ono's point, this is a fairly rudimentary system that I've created. I created it just for it's not far away actually, but it's a very simplistic form. The BULLshido artist would have us look at the yellow. The point I'm making here is just do kaizen, but don't just do it in the yellow areas. We must also be looking at the one end of the spectrum of getting our money back. We must be looking at the spectrum that says, how do I make that order development, the translation of our customer requirement into a manufacturing or purchase order that goes on the shop floor? How do I speed that process up? Because that can be lead time. How do I speed up the process by which I give information and book routings through that process? All of that is opportunity for kaizen. But people gravitate to one piece low, standardized work, SMED. Yeah, great. How do I SMED the fact that Moan pays me in 120 days and his terms are 30 days? Really? Is that the only club you have in the bag? Well, that's a kaizen opportunity. Mark DeLuzio says it in his book, and he says it, we talk about this regularly, that lean is the entire enterprise. It's not just the value add piece. If you're going to do, not do lean, if you're going to be in the lean mindset, it's the whole 9 yards. It's the whole box. You don't just play with the bits that are nice. You've got to play with some of the other pieces that, I'm an industrial engineer, I don't delve into financial systems. Well, I'm sorry, but that's part of the kaizen process. It's the whole thing. When I worked at Nissan, nobody said, I work in finance and I will only do finance things, or I work in procurement, I will only do procurement. We didn't have job descriptions in Nissan. We had job titles, and they were fairly generic. So when I walked in through the door on a morning, in the few days that I was actually in the plant and not at suppliers, when I walked in through the door underneath the Nissan hamburger, I knew my job was to improve. Every single person in that organization, the first thing that was in their mind was, I'm here to improve. That was the kaizen mindset, that we're here to improve. It might only be a small piece. It might be that I'm just trying to be better tomorrow than I was yesterday. Or indeed, it might be that I'm working on something that's going to take a couple of days of planning, but by the end of the week, I'm going to be better this week than I was last week. It wasn't always, I'm going to be better today than yesterday, because that's a BULLshido target. That's what BULLshido purists would like you to think. Sometimes the reality is, I'm going to have to take a couple of days to do the proper planning and due diligence in this, the better that my idea will stick at the end of it. So it's okay to say, for a given problem, better today than tomorrow, but it's also okay to say, better this week than last week, because you might need to manipulate your issues slightly. And what I would say to listeners is, don't be beguiled by the BULLshido people that says that every day needs to be better than yesterday. That is BULLshido. Sometimes that's just impossible. You can try, you can always pursue excellence, but just keep in the back of your mind that we need data sometimes to make an informed decision. We don't always do it on intuition, and you might need some time to make that semblance of a decision. So, but we need to look at the whole thing, and it needs to be start to finish, top to bottom, and across each function, which is why when we create kaizen teams or people working in QC cycle, what the hell you want to call it, doesn't really matter what the fad label is. But when you get engaging with groups of people and empowering them and giving them the time to fix a given aspect of the business, the cognitive diversity, there's a guy called Matthew Syed talks about cognitive diversity in his book, Rebel Ideas, where I want people in that team that are from finance, procurement, HR, shop floor, union, purchasing, whatever, to bring different points of view to bear on the given issue. I don't want guys that, well, I know there's this get the experts, the people who work 10 meters from the problem, but you want your wild card, the person who isn't beguiled by that paradigm, who might jump to conclusions. You want the person who asks the daft question, who isn't scared to stand up and say, I don't understand that. How can you say it in a different way? Because sometimes saying it in a different way changes the problem structure. You understand it slightly better because you have to break it down to talk to someone who doesn't live it every single day. So cognitive diversity, having teams of people that don't necessarily live within 5 meters of the problem. You always need to have somebody from it, the expert, if you want to call it. But the wider spread you can have around that group, the better. And that's why it supports this global, this entity-wide thrust for continuous improvement. It's not just about operations, it's about finance, HR, whatever. How long does it take? Shop floor, our biggest blockage is the fact we're stuck for labour. How long does it take to recruit someone? Ooh, 6 months. When Mohan says, I need 2 people to work on the line, it takes me 6 months to get them on the line. But from the moment I put the ad in the newspaper or on the internet, we come in, we go through a bout of interviews, we make your final selections, then you have to work a 3-month notice, then we go through a 2-month induction. That's a problem. I can buy a piece of equipment faster than I can recruit somebody in some companies. So how do we kaizen that process? Because if my capacity constraint is that I can't get labour, and the capacity constraint is, the root cause is it takes too long to get people in the door, then I need to concentrate on that. That's a kaizen issue. But it's much easier to look at SMED, much easier to look at the capacity in other ways. The capacity is not machine. It's, in this instance, it's human. So we need to be expansive in our kaizen approach. We need to be expansive across the whole organization at every level. And it needs to be led from the top, from the very top guy. This isn't something that you bring a CI director in or an operational VP, an operational excellence VP or whatever. They then abrogate responsibility to that person. That's like saying safety is the safety manager. That's BULLshido. It has to be led from the top. The guy at the helm with his hand on the tiller steering the boat needs to be the guy who leads the charge of all of this continuous improvement effort. Yeah?
Yeah.
So let's go back to this guy, because I really like Taichi Ono, but I also like his friend. So he was saying there's 7+ Muda. 7+, at least 7, maybe more. My pal Hitoshi Yamada from the book Forging a Kaizen Culture, when he talks about Mudatori, he says there's 3. If you remember from the last session, motion, transport, and stagnation. The other 5, or 105, fall under the category stagnation. The material is not moving through the facility the way we want it to move. Therefore, impacting upon the time when I get my money. Yeah? Amongst other things, but I don't get my money. So you remember that. And remember this point that Ono made. All we're doing is looking at the timeline from the moment the customer gives us an order to the point when we collect the cash. We're reducing the timeline by reducing the non-value-adding waste. So Ono says there's 7, Yamada says there's 3, Ono says there's more than 7. I'm saying there's 1. This is the contention I've had for some time, is that you can label it whatever way you want. Back to the point about just do Kaizen, for me, there's one waste, there's 1 Muda, and it's time. But the 7 Muda, Dave, according to Ono, are you crossing swords with Taichi Ono? I said, no, I'm not. I'm just looking at a slightly different level to what he said and to what Yamada said. It's not, I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying that the root, the evil that we need to stamp out, the evil that applies to Ono's own statement about compressing that timeline is time. Where's your 7 wastes? Ono's Muda transportation, what is it? Well, it's moving materials. Moving isn't working, it is non-value adding. So therefore it's time moving material in the factory, which is dead time. Do I want to move it, or do I want to be working on it or dispatching it? If I'm dispatching it to a customer, well, that's transportation that I'll forgive, unless my customer is right next door and I can put it through the wall to them. Inventory. Having more materials to hand than you actually require. More than immediately required means it waits. That's waiting time. So it's time. That's just 2 out of 2, time and time. Motion. Large motions, so class 5 motions of the torso or a shoulder movement, or a walk, I should say, and a class 1 motion, the first knuckle. So there's a classification of motion. Obviously, the lower the motion, the class 1, it takes me less time to move a finger that does a torso or a walk. So I want to compress my motions down to the lowest denominator I can. And I want fewer motions. I don't want lots of motions, even if they are low denomination. So large motions, lots of motions consume time. So there's 2 aspects to that. It's time. The longer a muscle or a joint is under contraction or movement, the longer that time, the greater the strain. So I want to keep things nice and easy and simple. So there's a safety element to this as well, in terms of ergonomics and operator-centric workstations. But the bigger the motion, the more the motions, the longer the time it takes to do the task. My standard time is higher. Time. Waiting. Well, that's self-explanatory. The materials, people, and machines standing idle. Now, this is your guru mantra, something I believe greatly in as well, Dr. M. Whilst machines and people can wait, materials must continuously flow. That's a significant consumer of time. So if materials are sat waiting in a queue, or to be inspected, or to be wrapped or dispatched or to be unpacked or whatever, that's time, that's dead time, that's non-value added. Over-processing, putting more work or effort into a product or a service than is actually required by the customer. That processing time is beyond what the customer is expecting, consumes time that could perhaps be better spent elsewhere. So if I'm polishing something to get it to look shiny, it's going to go into something that's covered over and you'll never see it again, that's a waste of time. I can be doing something else. I can be making something the customer actually needs. And in conjunction with that, overproduction is pretty much the same. If I make more than is necessary, I'm consuming time to make that is needed to make parts that are actually required. So if I make 200 because it's a great batch size, because the 200 actually makes my 1 hour changeover worthwhile, I'm making more than is needed. That point means that if I can get that setup time down to 60 minutes, I don't need to make that 100 to justify the long changeover time. I can be making something that is required. So making more than is required consumes capacity, and that's a waste of time. Making it earlier than is required, which is sometimes the same thing, means I'm wasting time. I'm going to make it just so I've got a decent batch size to make. I've joined 2 batches together, next week's and this week, to get a decent run length because I have a poor setup time. The next week's is going to sit for a week waiting until, and you can say, yeah, but you saved the setup time. Yeah, but that material sat for a week. Yeah. Then the last point, defects. Again, another contributor to Yamada's stagnation, but having to remake, redo, remold, rework, retread, repaint, reassemble, repack. And if it's got re in front of it, it means you're doing it twice, 3 times, maybe even more times. You're redoing it. That takes time, and that is not right first time. So make these references to time all the time. Downtime. Machine downtime, massive. Downtime is waiting time. It's time. Yeah, the machine's waiting for someone to fix it. It's downtime. The machine's waiting for someone to change it over. That's time. Time manifests itself across all 7 ways, and is the final loss to the company. It doesn't matter how you brand it, how you label it, whether it's transportation, inventory, you're losing time. You're losing time in that timeline from cash to cash that Ono says we should be looking at. Now, again, back to that principle. Let's never lose sight of that cash to cash process. It's one of several aspects of the essence that you need to look at. But let's not forget the fact that it doesn't matter where you lose it. Accept the fact you're going to lose time. Where on that timeline am I losing? And let's get some kaizen on that. If it's in the office, looking at the time it takes to get money back in from a customer, because they're in 60-day payment terms, I'm only in 30, so I'm losing 30 days in there, then that's a kaizen. Let's do that. If it's because I've got an excessive changeover time, it takes me 2 hours to change that machine, therefore I pull batches together and make big runs just to get money. I'm overproducing because I don't need it. I've got waiting time for materials, and I've got excessive changeover time, downtime on my machine. There's a myriad of different reasons, but accept time is of the essence. The time manifests itself in all the losses that we've got, and a kaizen should focus primarily, or at least never lose sight on the fact that we're here to save time. This has to save time. This has to be, time is good for the human, because I'm conducting work which is value-added work, not waste work. And Ono said, a good friend of mine, Don Armfield, reminded me yesterday about something that Ono said, that the greatest, and I'm paraphrasing, so please forgive me, but it went along the lines of the greatest disrespect you can apply to a worker is to get him to do work that is non-value added. So for me, respect for people, waste, kaizen, if you want something to hook that onto as one banner line, the banner line is cash to cash. I can show great respect for people by getting them to work using kaizen and the Goya principle to eliminate time losses along that timeline. The better that I get, reduce that and get my money in quicker. And I accord them a respect by granting them the time to do it, the capability to fail, and to make sure that we do this on a continuous basis. So that's, for me, one of the Muda, it's one stream in the essence about how we think about Muda, how we think about waste, where does the Muda apply to? It applies to time, and it applies predominantly, according to Ono. We are only looking at the time from cash to cash. His quote, not mine. We're only looking at that. So within that, keep it simple. Well, what do you mean by kaizen, Dave? And it's nice to see that we've got a line, and I get the time piece, Dave, but no, how? What do we do? Well, don't try and boil the ocean. People get hung up on, do I do lean? Do I do this? Do I do this? There's so much noise. What do I do first? And that generates idiotic charts that I've seen from LinkedIn. We start with 5S. And then you do kaizen, and then you do lean, and then when you're all done with lean, then you do Six Sigma, and then when you're done with Six Sigma, you do DMAG V for design, and it's a chart of how you unpack the toolkit, which is complete and utter BULLshido. 5S isn't necessarily a standalone process or theme that an organization should do. It's usually attached to something else. So if I'm going to do a SMED activity to reduce the setup time on a machine, there will be elements of 5S within that process study, because looking for tools, tooling, fixtures, fittings, whatever, to help that task is usually one of the biggest loss areas. So if I've got everything to hand or a 5S area, it's an enabling factor for a quick changeover. So 5S is knitted into everything we're doing. So to say that it's a start point and that my factory must be at a given level of workplace organization before I can then even think about kaizen, utter BULLshido. There's no place. That is, I wouldn't say it was someone who is trying to make a buck. I think when I see this on LinkedIn and other places as well, it's naivety. They don't know any better. That is not where you start. It's a useful start. It's people have asked me in the past, can we start with 5S? Because it's an easy hit. It's an easy one. Yeah, but yeah. What do we do? Paint the floor? If you really truly understood 5S, then you wouldn't start there. 5S is a very, very deep subject. Very, very deep, especially when you get to the second S. Most companies I know don't even worry about the last two. 2S. When I was at Nissan, Gemba Cannery was 2S. Say set on, clear out, configure the area. The third one, say so, or clean and check, which we use in Nissan, was the first step in the 7-step autonomous maintenance program in TPM. So, you know, it was tied in to various other stuff. When I was in Japan, one of my senseis, Shibuya, said to me one night, he said, Dave, I want you to show me the relationship between 5S, Kanban, and TPM. And he gave me a flip chart and a meeting room and a couple of pens, and he said, off you go and do this. I'll come back in half an hour, but I want to see how you make the relationships. And I thought I'd done a good job. I thought I'd done a really good job. But the more I looked into it, I thought, it's too big. I can't do this on a flip chart. And I was really struggling. I'd drawn some nice graphics. The third S is the 7-step and a 12-step TPM program. Kanban is the second S. When you get to the deeper point of putting things back, you put them back in the right orientation, in the right plane, with the right flow, the right replenishment system, the 4 principles of visual stock control would apply to the second S. And I had this all nicely charted on a chart. And he came in and he said, how are you getting on? I said, I'm struggling. I know what I want to say, but I can't get it. I can't get it on a flip chart. He said, no, because it's 3-dimensional. He said, kaizen is in the center, and it's a molecule. The nucleus of the cell is kaizen. He said, all of these things, so you're thinking 2-dimensionally. This is a 3-dimensional model. These things are interwoven with each other, where you penetrate in one, but you'll touch all. He says, and that's what you've got to get your mindset. Stop thinking 2-dimension. Start thinking 3-dimension when you think about business improvement. So that was his key point on that. But don't try to boil the ocean. Do 3 things. Right? And the way I try and talk to clients about this is, where do you start? I said, well, keep it nice and simple. Just look at 3 things at a time. And it's a rule that you can follow through to n degrees. Strategic alignment, what do we mean by that? Well, it can mean Hoshin Kanri, policy deployment, strategy development, whatever. But the essence is everybody in the organization going in the same direction. It's not about brand a fad label, Hoshin Kanri or SD, some strategy deployment. That's BUSHIdo. The essence is everyone in my organization working on the directional attitude of the business in the way that they can influence, using a language that they understand, but everyone's rowing the boat in the same direction. If you want to call it Hoshin Kanri, it doesn't matter. That means nothing. Absolutely nothing. There is no labels. Forget the fad labels. What is it we're trying to do? We want everyone aligned, working the strategy. End of story. Don't call it anything else. Just call it strategic alignment. It's not even a fad name. That's just 2 English words. Strategic alignment. Yeah. Does Billy Blowball, working that lathe, understand, roughly speaking, the direction of travel for the business, what we're trying to achieve this year? If the answer to that is yes, you have line of sight, cascade of operational and organizational objectives. Is his input, his values, his beliefs, his reasons for coming to work in the daily life, are they included in the strategic alignment of the business? Or as 6 guys with C in front of their name decided that this is the vision for the company because it kind of makes sense, and this is where everybody should go, and we all follow like a herd of wildebeests. Whether it's right or wrong, we'll follow that. Because that brings you to the kaizen mindset and the people engagement equation. But yeah, that may be what the C-suite think the vision and the values are, but that's not why I come to work. I come to work to put bread on the table. I want to do this, and if I don't feel that's going to happen, how come, they've got the strategic direction, they've given me my goals for the year, but I can't really influence that. I can't really, if I pull a lever, I can't make the needle move because I'm up against market forces, and I'm rewarded for that. I have a bonus that tells me I'm rewarded for 5% cost reduction every year, and I'm the procurement manager. But I've got a maintenance guy who wants me to buy the most expensive bearings, the most expensive oil, because it lasts longer. I want to buy the cheap shit and get it, get it cheap and get value from that, and it will get divergent objective setting. So unless we get that strategic alignment in the language that people want all the way through, with the values and the beliefs engaged at the individual level, then that's BULLshido. It's lip service to the fad. So do three things. Strategic alignment, as I've mentioned. Kaizen mindset is taking that and empowering people to make change, allowing them the time to think, allowing them the time to fail, allowing them the capability and opportunity to fail, because through failure we learn. And if we want to create a learning environment, we need to provide that environment in a soft, benign way that people feel that I can try things and I won't be punished or castigated if it fails or it doesn't work first time. But we don't. We're suckered into always wanting to succeed. Every egg has to be a bird. Every trial, every kaizen, whatever you want to call it, has to provide a result. And if that's the mindset, then you're not hiding to nothing. You know, the light bulb, Edison didn't create the light bulb first time out. You know, he had 1,000 times of trialing, not failure, trialing. And that's what we need in the Kaizen mindset, is the ability, the acceptance that failure is okay, not all the time, not whole-scale failure with no safety net, but we allow people to try things and get it the way they need it to be, along with a strategic alignment. And then we need to give people the correct problem-solving toolkit. And what I mean by that is that strategy development is problem-solving. Problem-solving is not 8D, A3s, A4s, DMAIC. That's not problem-solving. It is, but don't think that, you know, that's it. You know, there's an old saying that, you know, crows are blackbirds. There's a blackbird, it must be a crow. Well, no, it's a blackbird. You know, it's an ostrich. Yeah. Problem solving is 8D. Well, it is, but it's not all problem solving. So we go back to strategic alignment. Problem solving at a strategic level is, do I need 15 factories when I've only got, when I've got 25? Do I need 15 factories because I've only got 12? I need to expand. Do I want to reshore all my material manufacture from the Far East back to the US? Do I want to offshore my material back to Australia from wherever? These are problems at the strategic level. They require slightly different skills and tool set to achieve that. But nonetheless, it's a problem-solving mindset. I mean, a problem-solving toolkit to back that up. At the micro level, yeah, 8.3s, 8Ds, whatever you want to call it. That focuses in at the shop floor level. But also, there's other stuff. So if I take that at that level, we've got the quality tools. 90% of problems, forget DMAIC, forget statistics, forget packet Burman arrays, design of experiments, forget all that stuff, regression on that. Just forget it. The 7 QC tools, being able to do a decent histogram, understanding what's my spread, understanding my Pareto, doing multi-level Paretos and stratification to understand what my biggest root cause is going to be. 5 whys, process flowcharts. Train people to do that, where there's not a lot of maths involved, you're not pushing people into their uncomfort zones, that they can actually instigate some change and give them those tools. That's pretty much all you need. Resource planning. How do I plan for flow? How do I set them, how do I buy machines that allow me to flow? It's actually okay to slow machines down to keep flow going. We don't need to be going full pelt all the time and creating overproduction. We can only produce, let's think systemically across the whole piece, and that might mean balancing flow by tumbling things down. That's fine. Industrial engineering, instead of calling things lean tools, guys, the root and essence of this was industrial engineering. There's an argument that says, before industrial engineering, we had method study. SMED is method study. Method study came out 70, 80 years ago, long before Shingo got a hold of it and made a book about it. Method study is understanding what is the current method and how to improve that method ergonomically to save time. Then I apply time study to that to understand how do I generate my standard time after, or to give you some form of measure. So let's always say the roots that these things come from. And some of these are fairly basic tools. Take all that aside and just call it a problem-solving toolkit. Not Six Sigma, it's not lean, it's not bloody JIT, it's not anything. It's a problem-solving toolkit. It's a bag of tools that you go in there and you pick the right tool for the right job. And we'll train people through Kaizen mindset to understand the problem that they face, do it proper, not understand it properly that they can define it, and then select the right tools to fix that. And whether you're in the C-suite and you're looking at how do I look at geographical analysis and economic analysis of a given country before I decide to put a factory there. Or it could be a guy in the shop floor saying, how do I look at elimination of class 4 Benz, picking up my parts and put them on a workstation? The problem-solving toolkit is expansive and embracive for a wider population there. But the three things tie in with each other. Strategic alignment for everybody in the whole company. Kaizen mindset, again, for everybody in the whole company. Giving people the chance and opportunity to fail. Whether that failure at strategic level is scenario analysis, testing things, business continuity planning, and understand nothing tested this more than the pandemic 3 years ago, when people suddenly realized that shit, my factory in India is now closed down completely. We cannot produce there. The Indian government have closed that factory. Nothing's coming out of it. Where do we transfer production to? Never been modeled. We could do it, but we've never modeled the movement of that to somewhere else, to China or to Japan or to Taiwan or whatever. So active modeling of failure, of risk at the strategic level is a way of problem solving before it happens. It's your FMEA before it happens. So do three things, rule of threes. Don't do 5 up there, you'll never do 5. Then rinse and repeat. So in my strategy plan, once I've worked out my strategy, and I've got my 15, 20 things I need to do for 2022, and I've turned my X matrix around 15 times to see who does what and when, you know. Don't embark on 15 things. Embark on 3. Do 3 things. What's my top 3 priorities? Let's bring laser-like focus to those 3 things. Don't boil the ocean. Don't pretend that you're getting stuff done by doing 15, because you won't. You've got a finite resource of people. You tend to find people appearing against, in the racy nomenclature, you'll find people appearing on the same projects, and they're in conflict. People's conflicting. I've got my day job and I've got 2 objectives on the X matrix. What the hell do I do? I'm getting beaten up on a Friday for not getting parts out the door, but I've got my X matrix. What the hell do you do? Do 3 things. Make sure you do 3 things. There are 3 live things at any given time. Once one thing is killed and done and is bottomed out, and you're getting the maximum value from it, add 1 in. It's not 3, then 3. It could be 3, go out 2, add 1 in, then it moves along, 1 drops out, add 1 in. But you're always working on 3 things until you chew that whole elephant up at the end of the year. Instead of getting to the end of the year saying, well, we tried to do 15 things, we did 3 kind of mediocre, 6 we didn't even get to, you know, and the other 6 are still in process. So it's pointless. Do 3 things, do them well. Keep your approach flexible and focused. So make it flexible, because you don't know what's happening. People say, well, you need to plan 5 years out. So what that suggests to me is that 3 years ago, when people were doing the 5-year planning, the Hoshin planning, they saw the pandemic coming and they knew exactly what was going to happen to the worldwide supply chain for that. They saw the chip supply. They saw it. These guys are doing Hoshin planning 5 years. They saw it happening. 5 years, there's going to be a chip shortage. We'll navigate our way through this by doing this, this, and this. We live in a world where back in the 70s, back in the 90s, you could plan 5 years out. You could go that extra mile, because we were in the growth statement in terms of, you know, how the economies in the world was moving. There was other factors that held that stable, but we'll not go into that. It's a different talk. But right now, we're in such a volatile environment with Ukraine, with the pandemic, with food shortages. I wouldn't like to try and bet on what my 5-year strategy will be, not at any significant level. Planning for the next 2 years and seeing every challenge that we're coming up against as a problem, with the flexibility to actually do something about that, and to be testing the what ifs. What if this happens? How do we react to that? Really tuning up business continuity planning, really tuning up our strategic risk management, so that we navigate, we can adapt and change quicker than we currently do. But committing to a 5-year strategy today is, well, good luck. I think you'd struggle with that. Stick to the basics. Back to what Ono says, just do Kaizen. Just get on that timeline and do Kaizen and have fun. Kaizen is good fun. Allow your people the time to think, allow them the chance to act. Employ the Goya principle every day. Yeah, Ono said, if you're not getting your hands dirty 3 times a day, you're not managing properly. Goya means get off your ass. It means get down there on the shop floor and have a look. It's not something that some managers do. Yeah, I'm the HR manager. I don't go on the shop floor. That's the production manager and the finance guy. They go. No, wrong. This isn't about you. This is about the guys on the shop floor seeing management presence on the shop floor. It's about the guys on the shop floor seeing your presence and being present every minute of every day, not to a timetable, not to a schedule on the wall saying Tuesday's Moan's day for going on the shop floor and doing his Gemba walk. That is utter BULLshido, disrespectful to the guy on the shop floor, who, if he has any wit about him, knows that Tuesdays Mohan comes down on the shop floor, Wednesdays Davie comes down on the shop floor, Thursday Mark comes down on the shop floor. Really? That's not telling me that Mohan's committed to anything more than 1 day a week. So make it spontaneous, make it random, get off your ass. I've got 10 minutes, go and have a look down the shop floor, talk to people, engage with people, come back. I'd rather people did the volume of that than the quality of a one. Oh, Tuesday's my Gemba day. I'll go to the shop floor. I'll ask loads of questions to this list that I've been given at 10 o'clock, as I always do, and then we'll do total BULLshido. No respect. Fail early, fail often. We learn in failure, but make sure you do that in a controlled and safe way. And if I go back to the first segment that we talked about BUSHido and the BUSHido code, and we talked, the left-hand side there are the things that I mentioned as being a distillation, shall we say, of various codes. They're all pretty much the same, but they all come down to like these things: rectitude, courage. I had a look to say, do these qualities, these principles, these values, do they show up in what people would regard as being some modern models, or models that kaizen, lean people kind of think about? And I looked at Deming and I said, well, there's only a couple. I didn't want to do Deming a disservice because I love his work, but it wasn't focused on this kind of stuff. So I thought this is an unfair comparison. Shingo Institute, on the other hand, is a fair comparison. They have got their model of how they take people through excellence. And I thought, well, that's useful. I'll keep that one to hand. And then I looked at another one, the servant leadership, because a lot of people refer to the servant leadership 7 principles. There were other models as well, but it then becomes a very busy slide. So I thought I'll leave it at this. Rectitude, doing things the right way and thinking holistically about what you're doing. Systems thinker, so it covers servant leadership, pillar number 6, and think systemically. Well, so yeah, it covers that. Courage, having foresight and having constancy of purpose, and the courage of your conviction. Yeah, that fits. Benevolence and mercy, put people first, leading with humility. I think that leads across. Politeness, veracity and sincerity, they come under one topic under 7 pillars, which is the skilled communicator. And focusing on that process through the veracity piece, cover the Shingo bit. But there was a grey area there. There was nothing but politeness in the Shingo Institute model. I'll come back to the next one. Honour and character and self-control. Well, personal character is a servant leadership principle number 1. And seeking perfection in oneself and the self-control element, that led across from Shingo Institute. And then respect, leads with moral authority, respecting every individual. Yeah, there was a correlation there. So yeah, it is a bit of a squeezed fit, but it's nice to see that there's some service being given to the individual. The one that's missing is loyalty. That with the great resignation that people refer to and people leaving jobs to go elsewhere. I'm reading more and more often that people don't leave bad companies, they leave bad bosses. That's maybe true in a small manner, but for me, that's BULLshido, and we're starting to swallow some of this BULLshido now. In my experience, and the experience of most people I know, people leave for more money. They leave for better conditions. They don't leave necessarily in bad conditions, but they leave because the grass is greener. You know, it's we leave with the promise that we're going to get more money, better conditions, better, you know, a better, you know, environment to work in, closer to home. I don't need to commute as much. We leave for a myriad of different reasons. Not because my boss is toxic, not because of that at all. You know, it might be some point, but I'm not throwing it out. But to say that, to make that statement, people leave, don't leave bad companies, leave bad bosses. I think if you're getting paid a lot of money to stay, you'll stay. You know, whether your boss is bad or not. Maybe it's a jaundiced, skeptical Scottish view in life, but you know, there's more to it than that. But nonetheless, the word loyalty creeps in, and loyalty to the company, loyalty to your friends and cohorts and your peers, and loyalty to the people that work for you is a kind of damaged facet for me. Not in all three aspects here, but certainly loyalty to the company. And I've only ever seen it. I think I talked to this point during the week with you, Mohan. You've worked here. I've worked with him as a long-term client, Rolls-Royce. It's the only company that I've worked in and with in my career where when I'd run a workshop and I say, I want to know your name, I want to know your position in the company, length of service, any hobbies or interests and objectives for this workshop. When I ask that question, on average, and I've done that literally hundreds, if not thousands of times, I'll get back, yeah, my name's Mohan, I've been with the company 5 years, I'm a setter, I'm an operator, I'm a machine operator, whatever. But it's generally between 3 and 5 years. You go to Rolls-Royce, and the average length of service that I had workshops was about 32 years, 33 years. Some guys went 40 years. And outside of the mining industry or tertiary industry that we have, that's the first time I've been in a commercial environment where people have stayed the course. They've joined the company when they're 15 or 16 or 16 years old, and they're still there 30 years later, 40 years later. They're the only company I've ever come across like that. There's a tremendous loyalty to the company. It's a fantastic brand. It is stitched in and sewn into the fabric of Derby and Bristol. You've been there. So you bump into somebody in a pub in Derby, you say, where do you work for? You either work for Toyota or Rolls-Royce, and more often than not, it's Rolls-Royce because they're both in Derby. You couldn't ask that question in any other town in the UK other than Bristol. Where do you work? Rolls-Royce, you know? There's a fabric that they're part of. And it's the only time I've ever seen it. Everybody else, we're on this upward spiral. 2 or 3 years, we move on, we move up, we get more money, we get better, we get promotion or whatever. And it just seems to be the way. People want more quicker. They don't want to wait 40 years to work their way through to become CEO. But back to the point, the essence. For me, the BUSHIdo principles here on the left-hand side, the fact that they marry up and mirror in most instances, things that people are talking about nowadays, is not a bad facet for the essence. So concentrating on the basics and looking at these points here, there's still validity to BUSHIdo type behavior patterns in leadership and in working for organizations as we speak. Let's get this one down. So key takeaways: time is money. Cash conversion cycle is key. The quicker I get my money back from having spent it in the first place, the better. Then I can reinvest it, I can buy more, and every time I do it, every time I buy something and spend money, if I can make more for that, I'm making profit, I reinvest, that's the engine that we call commerce. There's only one Muda that applies to that, and that's time. We waste time. Any waste of time along that, whether it's stagnation, whether it's motion, whether it's transport or whatever, we're wasting time. We are extending the time till I get my money back. And that's bad. I'm not a bank. I'm not a philanthropist. I want my money back quickly. Just do kaizen to decrease that timeline. You don't need to think about it in super sexy fad labels or get into the fad war debate about what do I do 3-year constraints, or do I do lean, or do I do 6 Sigma, or do I do lean 6 Sigma, do I do 8 Sigma? You don't need to go there. That's fad labeling. Think of the tools. Kaizen's utilization of the tools towards a given end. Just pick the tools that are right for the job. Understand what the problem is, define the problem, and then apply the right tools and methodology to close that gap. Applies to all areas of the business. Don't think I've got a problem here, I need to go on shop floor and beat more people up and do more Kaizen. No, you need to look at the whole enterprise. It applies to finance, HR, procurement, maintenance, you name it. Everybody's in the same boat. I said this to you before, if you're in a boat, you want 200 people rowing the boat. You don't want 5 guys whose job it is to bail out water when they see a leak. You want everybody doing that. You want every area of the business to be given a cup And if you're sat at your place rowing that boat, whether it's finance, procurement, HR, whatever, if you see a leak beside you, you're trained to pick the cup up and throw the water out, plug the leak. That's kaizen. Yep. Allow your people to think, then act. That's the greatest respect you can accord them. Allow my people to think, and then allow them to act. Allow them to get rid of the waste of their time. I'll give them the tools to help them do that. There's no other there is other disrespect, but that is the primary disrespect, is I force you, or I allow you to work in a non-value adding way. Adopt a BULLshido mindset, banish BULLshido, and then again, do 3 things and repeat, rinse, repeat. Do 3 things, repeat, 3 things, repeat. While you're doing that, think of the system, not the parts. Don't be trying to polish up one small part of the process and say, oh, look what I created. I've got a fantastic printing department. Yeah, but this is bad. You haven't done the whole system. I'm still now producing at the rate of the bottleneck or whatever. I've still got stagnation. I've still got poor quality downstream. Yeah, so make sure you think of the system. You think holistically. You know? And don't be so focused on the wastes that you forget the objective. Don't be running out there saying, oh, Davie said there's 100 odd wastes, then there was 7, then there was 3, now he says it's a waste of time, let's go do it. No, the objective is, I want my money back. Correct. In this example, I want my money back. I need to compress that timeline, that time scale from cash to cash. I want to get my dosh, my loop, my dough, my wonga, whatever you want to call it, in quicker. So don't forget the objective. Look at what you're doing, cross-compare it to the objective. Is what I am doing, does my kaizen move the needle against that particular process objective? If the answer is yes, get on with it. Goya, get on with it. Gambari, Gambati my show. If the answer's not right now, but I need to do it in order to move the needle next week, fine. But if the answer is no, then you have to think about prioritization. That's not one of your top 3 things you need to be doing. You might still have to do it, but you know, I'm sorry, 5S'ing the canteen or the restaurant doesn't get my money back faster. You know, that doesn't help. So what do I need to do? Where are my blockages? Where are my stagnation points? Let's look at the objective, and let's look at clearing flow through the whole system, not just making things look pretty. And that's it. So thank you very much, Dr. M, for the opportunity to bump my gums on your show. I've left some titles up there. NOBULLSHIDO.co.uk is the website. My own consultancy business is up there, Pilgrim Management Consultants, that's .com. Me, myself, is DavieThomson.com, so you can catch me anyway there. I did say to someone else on LinkedIn this week who had asked you, is this live, or is it can I ask questions? If anybody wants to ask questions or wants clarification from this once it goes public, then please feel free to contact. I'm easy to find either on LinkedIn, or you can find me at DavieThomson.com. My email address is Davie, strangely enough, at DavieThomson.com. I'm easy to find. There's no P in Thomson. And just drop me an email or whatever, and I'm happy to talk. I'm happy to engage on a Zoom call or whatever with anybody that wants just a bit more clarification. Happy to do that.
Yeah, I will notify that when I publish it on the LinkedIn.
So yeah, that's okay. That's great. Yep.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And there are basically 2 takeaways from this presentation. So can I talk to you about that?
Yeah.
A lovely presentation. And I was...
Do you want to kill this screen?
Yeah, you don't kill anything. What Mark Twain says, Mark Twain, I remember, he says that the human beings are the most cruel people because they flip the cream. He goes on and goes on, and then he says, and above all, we kill time.
Yeah.
We are the most cruel. That's Mark Twain for you.
Yeah,
what I liked is that while you were talking about it, and I was, my words of Sensei Masaki, I was resonating. The flow. When you said the men can wait, the machine can add material to flow, That's the thing that's stuck in my mind. What comes into the Gemba is the material or the order processing, etc. What comes into a restaurant is a hungry stomach. What comes into a hospital is a patient. What comes into a carrier is a passenger. And that those have to flow. That's, when you talk about essence, that's what it means to me. What's inside. And when you're talking, I can see my sensei. I can hear his voice. The second thing that came to me is the word kaizen. Although Sensei Masakima has written, the only thing that he told me personally, which I follow, kaizen to me is whatever you are today, you'll be one step higher. That is a personal level. You can extend it to any level. Wherever you are, you go one level, one level. It is not, the delta is not defined. It can be incremental, it can be different. So therefore, although Deming uses the word continual, which is different from continuous, there is kaizen, there kaikuku. It doesn't matter. Let's not get into the fads, as you said.
No, because you
For
lose
me,
it. You
I
lose it.
respect Sensei. That's why I love your presentation. For me, kaizen just means a simple thing. Your standard is this. Your customer wants something which you want to use technology, which to me is a tool in your toolkit. Use it so that you improve the standard to meet the customer's demand. The strategy is towards the customer. That's all what it means. That's how I love what you said. And thank you very much for that. And coming to the Mudda. 7 Muddas. We always say that look at whatever you do. Is it for manufacturing or in manufacturing? If it is for manufacturing, the customer doesn't pay for it. It's a Mudda. Nachun has not said it. It's the Gemba guys like you and me who know what's the difference between for manufacturing and in manufacturing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for welding,
It's a subtle difference.
for welding, you pick up a thing, la la la. But the minute the weld touches, that's in manufacturing.
Yeah.
After that is for unloading. So
you know, I'm glad you said that. And I know this is a subject that's close to your heart. I was sat here yesterday, and you know, in front of my house is a cricket pitch. And there's a game of cricket on. I was looking at that, and I said, I'm going to be talking to Dr. M. And I know he loves cricket. Let's break cricket down into value add, non-value add. Now, you can argue that the whole game is value add, right? I know you would. But the ball, the machine can wait, that's the bat. The man can wait, that's the players. The ball is the material. And that ball is only adding value when it's hit and when it is flying through the air to go for a 2 or a 4 or a 6 or whatever. So that at all other time, from the moment you hear leather on willow to the moment the guy gets, to the moment it stops and it's thrown back, that's the value added time. Would you disagree?
So we agree. The time taken for the ball, that is the value added. I agree with you. It hits and it goes into a player's hand. There's a decision they made, or it goes across a decision made. But what moves, what flows is the ball.
Yeah, but it's not adding value till it's hit. Running up to throw the ball, that's transport. Yeah. And I looked at it, I thought, I'm going to talk to Dr. M about that because you know, it's exact point you made.
I'm game with you, sir. I'm game with you. Thank you very much, and stop recording.
Not a problem. Great.
That's the end of segment 2. And Davie, you're going to be back again on my show.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr.
Much before this Christmas. Much before this Christmas. Take care. Enjoy yourself. Catch you